Castlevania series has taken a surprising turn. While new game releases have become rare, this iconic vampire hunting franchise has now found major success as an animated TV show. Now this might spark curiosity among newcomers about where this gaming IP originated and which games to play to get a feel for what the series is all about. Even though it has been dormant for a while, there are many potential games to catch up on actually. However, two titles stand out which are directly connected by their plots and at the same time showcase the franchise's core gameplay pillars at their peak. And thankfully they're easily available as one bundle these days. So let's take a look at why Castlevania Rondo of Blood and Castlevania Symphony of the Night remain absolute must-plays. Castlevania Rondo of Blood is considered by many one of the best games of the franchise, and its main character, Richter Belmont, posthumously became one of the series' mascots. But not that many people actually played Rondo, at least compared to some other iterations like Super Castlevania 4, since it was not released for Super Nintendo or Mega Drive, but for the CD iteration of the much less prominent PC engine, also known as TurboGrafx. And there it solely came out in Japan. Only 15 years later it got an international release as a downloadable Wii game and as a PSP remake, before much later being re-released on the PS4 based on Sony's PSP emulator. Unfortunately, it was missing on the multi-platform Castlevania Anniversary Collection from 2019, once again limiting its potential reach slightly. The story, now set in the 18th century, multiple centuries after the first destruction of Dracula, also paves the way for the PS1 milestone Symphony of the Night, where it would be the vampire prince Alucard hunting down a corrupted Richter after the events of this game. Symphony would also change the series from linear action platforming to a Metroid clone, aka Metroidvania, which also makes Rondo a central link in the Castlevania series from a game design perspective. It relies more heavily on branching paths and secrets instead of being fully linear, but it also isn't fully open yet. Now, because Rondo of Blood only came out in Japan, it gained notoriety among niche gaming circles. Sometimes import retro games are overhyped by these communities because they're only played by the most hardcore fans, creating a sort of mythical aura around them. Yet Rondo of Blood was actually deserving of its hype. On the surface it works just like any classic Castlevania should. You fight your way through 2D parkours with spooky backdrops where Dracula's legion of classic monsters must be destroyed with your holy whip. In contrast to other action platformers, Castlevania is deliberately slow. The whip and other weapons need to be wielded with precision in order to methodically clear your path of demons, rather than with button mashing or superhero acrobatics. Compared to the more forgiving control scheme in Super Castlevania 4, Rondo returns to the more hardcore gameplay of the original games, where the limited movements and whip directions are a deliberate game design choice. But it also introduced many quality of life features, creating a tough but fair challenge. Thanks to fewer death pits, a save file system, super attacks for each secondary weapon, and also the ability to switch between these sub-weapons after picking them up. And if that's still too tough for you, you can later switch to Maria, who's basically an easy mode with double jumps and more powerful weapons. A remake on the PSP introduced various extras and was sadly missing from the PS4 port later. The new graphics were controversial, but in my opinion not that bad. In particular because the new artwork fits better with the story successor Symphony of the Night, making them both fit into the same baroque gothic art direction, whereas the story presentation of old Rondo was maybe the most anime Castlevania of them all. Nevertheless, it's hard to deny that the sprite work in the original version is still prettier than the remake's in-game textures. In fact, the original looks pretty timeless. Beyond that, the CD format allowed for an energetic soundtrack which mixed gothic organs with butt rock and 90s electro music. Ironically, despite being Japan exclusive at first, the game had voice acting in German, at least during the intro. In later ports they'd replaced the old amateur actor with German dubbing veteran Klaus-Dieter Klebsch, whose voice will certainly be familiar to any millennial in the area.
Den Anbeginn einer neuen Welt vor Augen.
As I've said, Rondo might have not yet been a metroidvania, but it features many different paths. If you just rush to Dracula's castle, you will be missing literally half of the game, but you can always return to all of the old levels. But even if you aren't a completionist, the tough but fair challenge and the optional routes always make Rondo of Blood an enjoyable pick for a replay. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one of the timeless masterpieces on the PlayStation 1 and also one of the console's many milestones. Up until Symphony, Castlevania was a rather conventional platforming game series which became a cult franchise due to its methodical gameplay and the relatively unique horror setting at the time. This changed slightly with PlayStation. The linear whip action gave way to an exploration game with Dracula's son Alucard, which drew on the non-linear concept of Nintendo's Metroid. Instead of linear courses with a clearly defined goal, there was now a side-scrolling maze to conquer, which opened up as you progressed through this huge cursed castle. Metroid-inspired platformers existed before Symphony of the Night, but it was Castlevania that really established them as a genre, hence the term Metroidvania. And despite the now overwhelming competition, especially coming from indie developers, Symphony of the Night stands the test of time. It seems obvious in hindsight, but Dracula's castle lent itself perfectly as a Metroid-like labyrinth, perhaps even more than the alien planets of Metroid itself. Sequels, especially Castlevania Area of Sorrow, have improved the moment-to-moment gameplay, especially when it comes to combat and menu navigation, but it's the atmosphere of Symphony which is still second to none. The odyssey through Dracula's castle has rarely been so succinct, be it thanks to the spooky halls, musty dungeons, or hellish arenas and torture chambers. Symphony perfects a baroque horror world, which naturally creates both a sense of mystery and an urge to explore. Not least thanks to its masterful pixel art, and even more thanks to the legendary soundtrack by Michiru Yamane. The pixel pop of old Castlevania gave way to melancholy baroque music and gothic songs. But don't worry, the occasional butt rock is also there. After all, Symphony still is clearly a Japanese game, giving it a much different mood than Western vampire media.
For the Master, I'll feast on your soul this night!
At the same time, the secrets of the castle and Alucard's unlockable abilities don't feel formulaic, not counting the double jump. Transformations into animals or mist make sense for the vampire Alucard, which can overcome barriers that don't feel too artificial. Ghostly creatures and cryptic machines activate certain puzzles instead of the game blocking your path with color-coded doors, like less creative titles often do. Besides that, Dracula's castle is much more imposing in size than the comparatively compact tunnel systems in Metroid, but despite the sometimes monotonous halls, Symphony avoids tedium in its backtracking through a plethora of teleport points and light RPG elements. So backtracking is never completely in vain, because at the very least you'll gain some XP. And thanks to many unique pieces of equipment, even this huge Dracula labyrinth could be filled with rewarding treasures and secrets throughout the entire campaign. Now there might be one disappointment for purists in later re-releases of the game, because they've been given a new dubbing, losing the old B-movie flair, even if the new dubbing isn't really theater ready either.
Dracula rises once a century. One chance for each Belmont to shine.
Answer me. Why is a Belmont planning the resurrection of Count Dracula?
Count Dracula rises but once every century, and my role is over.
But if you're not nostalgic for the old voice acting, you won't miss out on anything if you don't go for the original PS1 version. Personally, I only have two complaints with the game. For one, the cryptic requirements to avoid a bad ending and unlock all of its content, but for some reason that's the philosophy of the game's director Koji Igarashi, who has implemented these fake endings in almost all of his Metroidvania games. Besides that, there's a couple of skills which don't have in-game descriptions on how to activate them, which can be annoying during a first playthrough. Apart from that, Symphony of the Night is a timeless classic, regardless of which version you play or which version you replay, because despite the big size of its map, it can actually be completed in just one long evening or two, also making it one of the most replayable games of its kind.